Hi, so I'm here today to answer the question, why am I vegan? Um, the short answer is because I woke up. That might not be the answer to the question that you're actually trying to ask, but to the actual question, why am I vegan? I think the answer is because I woke up. Um, I see the world now as very, very much like the movie The Matrix. Um, it's all around us. I want to try to explain that, but I'm really not sure how because, as if you've seen The Matrix, you can imagine there's a lot to say. Uh, as an example, after I became vegan, I was reading The World Peace Diet for the first time. And somewhere in that book, chapter 6 or 7, I think, there's a chapter called Domination of the Feminine. I was reading that, and I read that cows have to be impregnated in order to start lactating and to produce milk, cow's milk, dairy. And I didn't realize that. And when I read it, I kind of went back a little bit and was wowed, not because they had to lactate to give breast milk, which is dairy, but because I was 23 years old and 24 years old, and I didn't realize that. And that goes to show how thick and deep the brainwashing and indoctrination is in our culture. I think a more appropriate question is, why aren't you vegan if you're not vegan? It makes all the sense in the world, and I think I'm just going to start with kind of my story of how I became vegan, because I wasn't raised vegan by any means. I wasn't raised vegetarian or anything like that. My mom and dad were typical American diet eaters. We had meat, or we had, cow or chicken or pig on our plate at just about every meal, certainly every dinner, and we had eggs and dairy all the time. Um, and when I was a child, I remember eating it and just thinking that's not really thinking much of it at times. But when I got to be about 12 or 13, I remember sitting in front of my sitting in front of my plate and looking at a chicken's leg, and there were veins in it, and there was the bone in it, and I didn't feel right. I didn't want to eat it. I was disgusted by it, and I tried not to eat it. One of my parents was very ignorant on the matter, and at least I believe this is where it was coming from, was very ignorant on the matter, and actually believed that we needed to eat meat to be healthy, that we needed it for protein. And so I remember many fights and arguments where I was refusing to eat it, and I was told things like, you have to sit there until it's done. If you don't eat it, after a few hours, if you're not going to eat that, we're going to put it in the fridge and you're going to have it for breakfast and then lunch and then dinner until you eat it. You're not getting anything else. So I struggled with that as a teenager. When I got out on my own, I stopped eating meat for the most part, and was vegetarian. I wasn't actually. I guess I was flexitarian, but most of the time what I ate was dairy-based, like macaroni and cheese or ice cream or eggs. I'd eat eggs, omelets, and things like that. Very few vegetables and, pastas. And I would leave out the meat. For a while, I'd eat some chicken, though. Now and then, I'd have chicken and a McDonald's salad. Things like that, but never on the bone. It had to be, really processed to take me away from that. But I decided that I wanted to be a vegetarian. I didn't want to eat chicken either. I didn't want to eat any of it. So I would do that. But people would ask me all the time, why are you vegetarian? And say different things. And I felt like I was different. Very much like I was different. And so a few times I remember when things weren't going well in my life, I ate, chicken again. I actually ate a hamburger once just because I was thinking, this is what everyone else is doing. I'm gonna try this again. Maybe this is what's wrong because everybody else seems fine and I don't. So that happened, and I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like it. It didn't make me feel good afterwards. I knew I was eating someone's body, and that hurt, and that made me feel guilty and bad. So I would go back to eating, heavily dairy meals and eggs and things like that I thought wasn't causing any harm. When I was 19, I met a guy through an interesting channel. The man I was with at the time liked to go to clubs and party and things without me, and he borrowed somebody's phone at a club once to call me at like 3 in the morning, and I didn't answer. I wasn't awake, but I got a weird voicemail from him. He was drunk and it didn't make any sense, and so I called the number back and found out who this phone belonged to, and was trying to find my boyfriend, see if he was okay and what was going on. And they hadn't seen him since that night, and it was, this guy's phone, but he hung out with a group of people, lived with a group of people. So, I called back a few other times because I was worried about my boyfriend. And it was the same thing. And finally, I got talking to the owner of this phone. And we seemed to have a lot in common and get along. And he was a cool person. And so we kept talking back and forth on the phone and texting. And it got to the point where he wanted to meet me, and his friends were trying to set us up because they thought that he would be a much better boyfriend to me and that I deserved a good boyfriend, and he wanted a girlfriend and he liked me. And so we were talking, getting to know each other a little more, and we're in the process of being about to arranged to meet each other. And I said to him, I need to tell you something because it's an issue for some people, and I want to know if it's an issue for you. I said, I'm vegetarian. Is that an issue for you? And I remember, I'll probably never forget what he said. He said, no, that's not an issue for me. I think that's great. I think that eating any animal products is really disgusting, actually. Which is ironic because he wasn't vegetarian or vegan at all. But he said that to me, and he said, if I could afford it, I would be vegan. And I really don't believe I had ever heard the word vegan before then. So I asked him what it was, and he told me it's someone who doesn't eat any animal products, I said, oh, okay. And that was that. Um, we met and we had a relationship for a little while and we broke off and all in the same year. And years later, 20, 21, 22, about 22, I was in a better financial situation than I had been when I was 19. And this guy it had really broken my heart because I carried on my desires to be with him and to know him better all these years. And I thought to myself, well, I'm going to try and be vegan now. I have more money. I'm going to try and be vegan now. And I set out to be vegan. I didn't really know why. I didn't know, any harm that was coming to animals from the dairy or egg industry. I didn't know that it was any healthier for you, anything like that. So I set out and tried to do that just by eating the things that I used to eat without any dairy products or eggs. So I get yams, and I was eating yams dry, and potatoes, and I was eating potatoes dry, and instead of with my ranch dressing, or not my ranch dressing, but with ranch dressing or butter or anything. And so that didn't last very long. I did it maybe 3 weeks, and I didn't know what to eat, I guess. So I stopped, but about a month later, I decided I wanted to try again. So I set out to try again, and during that time, I had discovered more things in my local co-op. And I had bumped into another vegan in the co-op who had told me some things, some alternatives to things and whatnot. So then I found, Daya, which is vegan cheese, Daya shreds, and I had found Earth Balance, which I no longer eat, which is a butter that doesn't contain animal products, and found vegan ice creams and all these different tasty things. And so I've been vegan ever since then. Within that year, I started watching educational documentaries about it and reading books and different things. And then I learned first about the cruelty that's involved in dairy and eggs and that industry. And because I never wanted to hurt animals in the first place, I was just glad that I was vegan. And later on, I learned about the health benefits. I read The World Peace Diet. I read, what else did I read? I subscribed to Veg News or Veg News, whatever you want to call it, which is a vegan magazine. I had found an ad in Veg News magazine for greensingles.com, and I joined that, which is where I met my eventual and current boyfriend that I live with now, who wasn't vegan at the time, was a flexitarian at the time, and who has become vegan and has been vegan almost a year now. I took the plant-based nutrition course by T. Colin Campbell and E. Cornell, based on the China study, and I learned about plant-based nutrition and whole food plant-based nutrition, and I learned about how the meat, dairy, egg industry and let's just say their products are are causing cancers and heart disease and diabetes and Alzheimer's disease and all these other diseases and problems, and how changing to a whole food plant-based diet often reverses these things. It stops them, it prevents them, and it reverses them oftentimes, a lot of times, most of the time. And I learned about food more. I learned about why our bodies are designed to eat whole foods, whole plant foods, and why they're not designed to eat um, meat and dairy and eggs and highly processed foods. And with that, I learned, how the foods, well, when it comes to processed foods and whole foods, how a whole food, a potato, for instance, has all of these nutrients that work together as like a symphony to break themselves down and to release nutrients into our body and to digest themselves. And how when you process the foods, you're taking fiber and other nutrients out, so the food doesn't have the capability to do all of that anymore. And how meat, dairy, and eggs don't contain any fiber at all, so they have to steal it from what's already in your body. And I learned firsthand the benefits. I wasn't fat before I went vegan, but maybe I was. I had, a sort of a beer gut. I had a protruding belly, and I lost some weight. That slimmed down some. I had other health benefits, and I found myself thinking better, being able to focus better. My depression went away. So, why I am vegan, I think, is because I woke up. Everybody is in this trance. They've been hypnotized from the television, the media, because they trust doctors and people in authority that they believe have the answers. They don't believe they're smart enough to know the answers themselves, and they believe these people do have the answers, and they trust them. They trust what is popular belief and the culture, how it's been passed down from culture to culture. People believe that what their parents or their guardians pushed on them from birth and what their neighbors have all do is correct and normal and is the thing to do. And it's not. It's this huge lie. It's like the saying, if you're gonna lie, lie big and do it often. That's exactly what this is. The food system. I mean, as an example, in schools, you're taught the food pyramid or the plate or whatever, where they tell you you need dairy, you need cow's breast milk. Doesn't make any sense. And you need meat. But they tell you that, and they're teachers and they're schools, and they're supposed to educate you. And so you just take their word for it. And, come to find out, 6 out of 10 people on the board that created the food pyramid and the food plate have financial links to the dairy industry or the meat industry. So things aren't what they appear to be. And that's why I refer to it as the Matrix and refer to the why as because I woke up. Most people answer this question with, I did it for the animals, or I did it for my health. And vegan, if you look it up on Wikipedia, it says something different than what it will say if you look up the definition coined by the man who created it, Donald Watson. Donald Watson created the word vegan, and his definition of it, I don't have the definition memorized, but his definition of it is a philosophy that involves not harming animals as much as is possible and practical, including not eating them, not buying or wearing any animal products, so suede, leather, feathers, fur, and so on, and not participating in the industries that use them and abuse them and what is the word? I can't think of the word. Exploit them, like circuses with elephants and rodeos, zoos, those kinds of things. So that's what a vegan actually is. Someone who just eats the vegan diet, someone who just eats foods that don't contain animal products is actually someone who's plant-based or strict vegetarian, which we don't like because that's a manipulative trick, using the word strict there to make it seem like it's hard or unnecessary or extreme, which it's not. So anyway, most people will answer that they did it for the animals. They'll say something like, I saw this video and I found out what was going on and I didn't want to support that anymore. Or they'll say, I met a vegan and they told me, some things, and I started doing it too because I care about animals and I don't want to eat them and I don't want to be participating in stealing their lives and their livelihood from them, participating in the violence. Some people will also say that they did it for environmental reasons, that they found out about how the meat, dairy, and egg industry is the number one cause of global warming, which they are. Or they'll say that they did it for humanitarian reasons, that they don't want to support this industry because people are starving all over the world and there's plenty of grain to go around for all the people, and then quite a bit. But massive amounts of grain are being fed to cows and pigs and chickens instead. Or because they don't want to support the industry that's keeping people doing this horrific work of killing and stabbing animals and working in these factory farms. And then there's the health reasons. It's much healthier. It's the way people are designed to eating vegan. You can be a junk food vegan and have health issues if you just eat potato chips and sugar and processed foods, sure, but the body's not designed to break down our bodies. We have frugivore bodies. I have a chart I'll show you in the description. But I didn't consciously do it or see anything that made me change. Like I said, when I was a young teenager, I didn't want to hurt the animals. I didn't want to eat them. I didn't want to put that in my body. I didn't want to put somebody's life that was taken from them into my body. But I didn't make the connection that dairy and eggs were even crueler, really, than the meat. I didn't make the connection. And I didn't make the connection of all the animal byproducts and nasty things, gelatin and all the mystery ingredients that were in all these packaged foods and things. And I didn't make the connection of hygiene products and cleaning supplies and animal testing at all. Until after I decided I was going to try to be vegan. So yeah, I told you the story, and that's why I say I woke up, because it was just a shift that happened, and it wasn't because I saw a movie and I thought how horrific these animals are being treated, I'm gonna stop eating this stuff now, or I saw the evidence for cancer or anything like that. So that's why. There's some great videos and different links and stuff that I'm going to post down below. And I highly recommend The World Peace Diet, the book. If you don't want to run out and get the book right away, highly recommend that you Google some lectures from Dr. Tuttle, Dr. Will Tuttle, because he really shows how deep the rabbit hole goes with this. And I'm really glad that I'm awake. I would never choose to, like what's his name did in the Matrix. I would never go, oh, steak tastes so good, I don't care if it's real food for humans. Okay, so I don't care if it's real, I just want to taste it again. I would never do that. I did crave cheese and ice cream and dairy for about 3 weeks once I started going vegan for good. And then I started, I craved it like every day, but I stayed on the path and didn't eat it. And then about a month later, so about 3 weeks to a month later, it wasn't like that anymore. I just craved it like every week, and then it'd pass, and then it was every month, and it'd pass, about like that, till I got to the point where I didn't crave it at all. And then I got to the point where it makes me sick. I can't walk by the cheese section in Whole Foods. I literally can't. The smell makes me sick. I have to cover my nose and breathe into my shirt when I smell, meat or anything, any animal products on the streets or anything. I'm completely repulsed. And thank goodness, I'm glad. It's toxic for us. It's killing the planet. It's extremely cruel to the animals and to my heart and to my psyche. And there's no way I want to eat out of a graveyard or a rape evidence gallery. I don't know, hen periods. And anyway, it's a beautiful world. It's like I was asleep, like I was semi in a coma, really, to it, because now that I'm vegan and I've been vegan for a while, I see so much more than I did before, and I have so many, like, blockages that have been removed, and I feel lighter in my spirit, in my body, in my mind, my brain, like my thinking, my feelings. But it is really hard to look at what the majority of people are doing, which is, and to see them not awake. And when I try to talk to people about it, that's exactly how it appears to me. It's like they are sleeping, and sometimes they'll mumble something in their sleep or do something, and I'll kind of tap them and try to wake them up, or I'll say their name, I'll try to wake them up. Some people do wake up. I've gotten through to some people. Some people, my friends, are vegan now, who've gone vegan after me. Some people I know I've planted seeds with, they didn't go vegan, as far as I know, yet, but they may in the future, or they're starting to look at things differently. They're starting to wake up. They're starting to realize that they're asleep. And some people will just, wave their arms at you, try to shoo you away, try to hit you, or yell at you, or whatever. Just snore really loud. So it's sad to be in a world where the majority of people are sleeping and they're in a nightmare. It's just the nightmare is real. The violence is real. The repercussions are real. It comes back to us. And when you take yourself out of that and you give the animals and you give people and you give the planet the respect and compassion that they deserve, you start getting that back in return. But just like when you're mean to somebody, well, just what you put out there, you get back. I can't, to some degree. I mean, and I myself, I'm not being judgmental about it. I myself, for a number of years, took out my wallet, paid people, and on the American monetary notes, what does it say? It says for all debts, public and private. So when you hand somebody that, you're saying to them, you're doing something for me. You're doing something on my behalf. So I myself have taken my wallet out time and time again, handed people these things, these monetary notes, after asking them, can I have macaroni and cheese? Can I have ice cream? Can I have chicken salad? What I'm really asking is, can you bring me someone's dead body? Can you bring me, the breast milk of a species of can you bring me the breast milk of a cow? Can you rape a cow, get her pregnant, make her lactate, take the milk, mix it with some sugar, freeze it, and give it to me? That's really what you're asking. You're not asking the person at the restaurant or the grocery store or the clerk to do all that for you, but you're asking them through the chain of command to do it. You really are, because you're saying, I want this product, good job, keep it up, keep getting me that product. So the restaurant owner or the grocery store owner, whomever sells you that product, they get on the phone or they do their paperwork and they say, yeah, I'm going to need, 23 more cartons of ice cream. And then the factory owner goes, okay, I'm going to need 23 more quarts of milk. To the farmers, if you want to call them that. Most of them are factory workers. They put these animals in factories. So you got the boss of these factory farms, or even small farms, whatever, on the phone, getting that question, that request, and they say, okay, workers, we need you to impregnate 6 more cows, hook them up to the rape rack, rape them, impregnate them, then throw them in this tiny stall, because we keep getting a lot of these calls asking us for more milk, and we have a limited amount of room. We need to make this as profitable as possible, so we're going to cram them all in here together, and that's the way it goes. When the baby comes out, you kill it or you send it to a tiny crate for veal, and butcher the cows when they stop giving milk. That's what we're getting called for. You do it. And the reason people do it is not because they're violent, mean, cruel people in their minds. They don't wake up and go, so I'm gonna make sure that some cows suffered horribly this morning, some chickens too, pig, and then I'm going to go to work, and when I'm halfway through work, I'm going to check in and make sure that, some more cows and another cow, or some more cows, however you want to say it, and, are gonna suffer some more, and then when I get home from work, I'm gonna do it again. Make sure that these people who are the most impoverished people are doing horrible, wretched work, and their souls are being deadened, and they're getting hurt on their jobs because they're working with large knives in a very fast-paced environment. Better keep the supply up. Want them to suffer too, and I'm gonna go to impoverished countries, and I'm gonna steal grain from children, and let's make sure that the planet gets a lot of CO2 emissions and methane emissions, and let's deplete the oceans a little more, because they're at like 10% of fish or less are left in them, so let's keep that inertia going. I'll do it like that. It's the Matrix. Alright, obviously a little editing here. I am back because I had a slight inaccuracy in my facts when I was talking about the medical industry and the number of the top causes of death being linked to animal products. I used a number that was slightly off. So I'm just going to briefly go into this. Who are you a battery for? Well, I don't know, but you can think about who's really profiting financially, who's really profiting from all of this harm and sickness that's going on. The medical industry certainly is. I'll just say the top causes of death in Western cultures, where the most dairy, eggs, and meat are consumed, are now linked in science, linked to the consumption of these animal products. And there are the treatments that come before death that the medical industry makes money off from, taking care of people who are terminally ill, radiation, chemotherapy, heart bypass surgeries, amputations, and more. There's the pharmaceutical industry, who provides most Americans, well, I don't know if that's technically true, but just about most Americans with some sort of pills, and most of these pills are coming because people are sick with illnesses that are caused from consuming meat, dairy, and eggs, depression, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's disease, a lot of them, mental issues beyond depression. There's some positive correlations with animal product consumption and those things as well. Just a large number of them. The China Study is a good book to check out if you want to look at statistics around this. Who else is making money? Well, the meat, dairy, and egg industry, of course. They're making a lot of money. They're selling that to the average American 3 times a day, every day. And not just people in the United States, but all over the world. They're selling it to people all over the world now. So who else? Well, the media is making money. These other industries have the most money. They have all this money from what's going on, and what are the commercials for? They're not for broccoli, right? So the media makes a lot of money out from this. And there's a lot of ties with the government. The meat, dairy, and egg industry, sorry about that, have a lot of financial friendships and ties and things with the government and the meat, dairy, and egg industry do. You can look into this and trace it and look at it. You've got people who are setting regulations and making laws who are also receiving money from these people, or who work in these companies, or CEOs and that kind of thing. So I don't know. You get what you give back. It's not always immediate, or we'd all recognize it right away what's going on. It's not always in the same dose, but you get a piece of it. So you're paying these people to treat animals badly. I believe that it's coming back to you. So there's obesity. Since factory farms came to be, there's been a increase in fattening animals faster and faster. There's always been the desire for people who are breeding these animals for food to get them fat quickly, so money can be made off from that. But with the factory farms, it's increased. And there's like an epidemic now in the United States and in a lot of other places with obesity and overweight people. 1 in 3 people in the US are obese now. 1 in 3. And 2 out of 3 people are overweight. So there's that. Alright, a little more editing, because I wanted to point out too that not only do we not immediately get back what we put out there or give all the time, we also don't always get it back from the same source. We don't always receive from the same source as to whom we give. Okay? So I can go into a few examples of things that I see and that others have seen coming back to humans. Connections between how the animals are being treated and what's going on with the human population. So these animals are afraid, they're angry, they're frustrated, they have anxiety, they're depressed, they're being forced to eat things that are not their natural diet to fatten them up quickly. And the human population in these cultures that are consuming a lot of animal products are just, it's just full. The culture is just full of people who have fear and anxiety disorders, depression. That's all on a rise. All these mental and emotional conditions are on a rise. A lot of people have these. I wrote some notes because I didn't want to forget any points, because there's really a lot of these. I'm just going to talk about a few, but I wrote down the ones that I wanted to talk about. So along with this, these mental issues and these emotional issues, this anger and frustration and anxiety and fear and depression and compulsive behaviors, comes tensions and problems, discord between people. And that's been occurring since before factory farms. But when people were still eating animals, but before the factory farms, there was still a lot of anger and all that going on. But people are finding it very hard to get along. It's less friendly now than it was in my grandfather's time, from what I hear, between neighbors and people in society. And you look at what's happened with the animals, they've been shoved together so much that they can't treat each other right. You have a small cage and people shove 6 to 8 hens in there where they can't move around without hurting one another and stomping on each other. So there's a connection. Hopefully you can go from there with it. I don't want to use the term broken homes because I don't want to imply that people who are in foster care, people who are single parents and raising their kids, necessarily have a dysfunctional family unit. I'm not saying that. I'm sure some of these are loving homes and it's functional, but these animals, their babies are always ripped away. They're always ripped away from them. They're not allowed to raise their children. And we have an issue now in society where a lot of children are taken away from their parents for no good reason. I was reading some articles about this, and I'm not saying that's always the case. Sometimes there is a reason. But I was reading a couple articles actually about these situations where child services comes in, takes people's kids away from them for months. The family, the mother or the father, both whoever's raising the kids, will go to court and fight this. The courts will find that the children should go back to their parents, that there was no reason for them to be taken away in the first place, and nothing happens to child services. Nothing happens to the people who made these calls and said these people don't deserve their kids, we're taking these kids away. They don't get reprimanded, they don't lose their jobs, nothing happens. So there's that. There are more people in this country who are raised by single parents or one parent and a step parent, or raised by their grandparents, their aunts, their uncles, who live on the streets, who leave home early as a teenager, who are alone, who are abandoned, who are in foster care, then there are people or children who are raised by a mother and a father. That's not the way it used to be. And it is now. And yes, people were eating animals back then, but they were actually eating less of them. There's been an increase in animal products, believe it or not, that people consume. In the last 50 years, it's just been going up and up and up. So people are eating way more animal products than they were 50, 100 years ago, contrary to what some people might believe. So maybe that's a part of it. I don't know. But compulsive behavior is certainly something that can be traced to it too. These pigs in gestation crates, they go insane. They'll start doing compulsive things like banging their head on walls and things like that out of frustration. And you've got addiction, which is a compulsive behavior. Addiction is just rampant around here. And OCD too, and different compulsive issues. Drug addiction with that too. There's been a rise in drug addiction since these factory farms. They inject animals with steroids, hormones, and then antibiotics to fight off the sickness that's being caused and generated from the conditions. And not only is drug addiction, as in street addiction, drug addiction, on the rise, but pharmaceutical drug addiction is really a big issue. People are getting addicted to these things that are prescribed to them, pharmaceuticals. And we have antibiotic resistance in people. I wonder why that is. So, but pre-factory farming, people were still eating animals, and there were still some big issues that can be connected to it. There was still a lot of rape, violence, patterns of domination, the might makes right, superiority, power, and and domination based on different things, your sex, your class, your amount of wealth. That's been going on for a long time, as long as people have been eating animals. So, I don't know. I hope that you can see some of the connections I'm talking about, but I know that other people have done a better job at talking about them and discussing them and bringing them up. Like I said earlier in the video, the World Peace Diet does a really wonderful job. It's a really wonderful book, and he does a really wonderful job at talking about these things too. So, like I said, I'm not attacking anybody. I'm really not. I'm just trying to encourage you to wake up. I mean, let's all play. Everybody liked the Matrix movie, right? I remember when it first came out, first couple years anyway, just about everybody loved the Matrix movie. So now I make the comparison and I show a video that explains how you're living in the Matrix, and you have the choice of what pill you're gonna take. Nobody responds to me. I don't get it. Everybody liked the Matrix movie, so let's play. We're in the Matrix. Let's play. Wake up. Wake up. Because here's the cool thing about it. The other side, when you wake up, like Neo wakes up and he goes into this world and it's all gray and, kind of depressing, and he's eating slop and fighting all the time. That's not what it's like when you wake up. When you wake up, the world is more beautiful. Your senses come back to you. I smell better, I hear better. My senses are more awake. I see the beauty in the trees more. I pay more attention to life. Life's better to me. I don't have to. I used to be an LNA. I used to look it up if you don't know what it is. It's a dirty job. I don't have to do that anymore. I'm not depressed anymore. I'm not in toxic relationships anymore, romantic relationships. These are just way better. And my food. I love food more. I really do. I eat more of a variety now than I used to. I really, really do. I try new things. Every year I try a few new things. Persimmons this year was one of them, and I love cooking now. I love making recipes up now, and I eat a variety of stuff, and it tastes great. It nourishes me. It makes me feel good. I don't feel weighed down. And just think about what you're putting in your body. Think about what you're buying, what you're doing, and know that you're powerful. They want you, the machines, they want you to think that you're powerless. They want you to think that you're one person. Whatever you do doesn't make much of a difference, and that you're better off following the herd. That there's safety in numbers and you're better off following the herd. It's a control game. It's not true. You're very powerful. Very, very powerful. You have these monetary notes. It's a vote. What you use them for is a vote. So I hope I've inspired some people to think about what's coming out of their mouth and what they're voting for with their money and what they're doing. I hope I've woken some people up. I'm vegan because I woke up. Why aren't you?